Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And it's kind of surreal because the now county executive was the co-sponsor of this legislation, Bill 2318, that was designed to make sure that we kept families in our communities safe. Just last night, we had a public safety meeting in Montgomery Village, and Chief Goldstein, who was there, did a great job of making sure that folks understood why carbon monoxide alarms are so important. It is the silent killer. I'm not going to take a lot away from Chief Goldstein because I'm sure he has a lot to share with you. But let me just say this, folks, we are approaching the winter months, time in which you will want to use possibly a space heater. A lot of people are talking about using propane heaters for restaurants and things of that nature. The reality is that all of those flames actually create carbon monoxide as a byproduct of them burning that fuel. And that carbon monoxide, if built up, can be incredibly dangerous, including in, unfortunately, the worst case, meaning death. We've seen it here in Montgomery County. We've seen it across the nation. It is so bad that our firefighters actually have carbon monoxide alarms on their bags to let them know if they're going into a situation that there's carbon monoxide in that building. So that's the reality of this problem. Again, as we enter the winter months, I can't remind people enough, whether it's generators, whether they're using space heaters that actually use a flame, your ovens, your fireplaces, all of those kinds of things. And of course, don't forget about your car that could be in a garage or carport. They all emit that carbon monoxide that can be incredibly dangerous. And so I just want to close by saying thank you to our Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors. They were a great partner in this effort in terms of making sure that we push this across the finish line, making sure that we mandate these alarms in our homes, because again, they realize, just like we do, how important this is in such a big safety matter. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the county executive.
Thank you, Craig. Got to remember this discussion well when we went through this process. Like many things, it takes a while before people, realize how vitally important something is. And I think this is one of those things that it was a silent killer. And it didn't kill a lot of people, but it consistently killed people. And I think, the new regulations, requirements for carbon monoxide detectors, all the things that we require now are making homes and safer and businesses safer. But every year as we go into the winter, we know that people are going to be using more fuel in their house, that's for sure. We know that, some households that are struggling particularly wind up using stoves and things as heating devices. And they're at particular risk of not getting those properly ventilated and putting themselves at risk. So we want people to be, hyper aware of the risks of carbon monoxide poisoning. And, the guidance is if you sense it, your alarm goes off, get out. Don't try to figure it out because you don't know whether you'll have enough time to figure it out before you pass out. And so we just urge people to be extra careful, take all the precautions that you can, and enjoy a cozy but safe winter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Executive. I know I want to hear from our fire chief, Chief Goldstein.
Thank you, Mr. Rice, and thank you, County Executive. You both hit key components. Silent killer, as there is no olfactory senses. You can't smell it, taste it. There's nothing that you as a resident or any of our residents can do to detect it. It's not like an electrical smell or an odor of smoke, something burning. There's nothing that you're going to use to detect it, which is why the carbon monoxide alarms are so critical. The circumstance, as the executive said, once the alarm goes off, it's an immediate evacuation, contacting 911. Letting the emergency providers come out. Mr. Rice mentioned that we carry a single gas detector on all of our EMS bags because frequently the first indication of a carbon monoxide emergency is somebody complaining of flu-like symptoms, a nausea, vomiting. And in this time of COVID and the fall flu season, the combination and confusion of flu-like symptoms just compounds that problem. But carbon monoxide is present all year round. So when we go in for somebody who's having a medical emergency, who feels nauseated or flu-like, that detector on our EMS bag starts to chirp, that's the only indication we've had that there's a carbon monoxide accumulation in that residence or structure. Now we know how to treat the patient, but we also know that we have a greater emergency than just a medical injury or an illness. So if your house has devices that use a blue or orange flame, natural gas or propane, wood or pellets, or anything that has a blue or orange flame, from your oven to your furnace to your hot water heater to your fireplace, absolutely you need to have a carbon monoxide alarm present in your structure. Mr. Rice also mentioned cars. Cars produce carbon monoxide as a byproduct from their running, and a car left running in an enclosed garage or even adjacent in a carport with a door open can get that carbon monoxide to filter into the structure and create that deadly situation. As we are significantly concerned, we use that phrase silent killer because you're most vulnerable at night when you're asleep, when you have no other senses available. And again, you can't smell this or detect this. So that's why that carbon monoxide alarm needs to be on every level of the residence, and most specifically needs to be outside of the sleeping area, so it can alarm for you and give you that early warning to get out of the structure before you become overcome by the exposure circumstances. Carbon monoxide alarms are as prevalent as smoke alarms. You can actually get a combination smoke and carbon monoxide unit that detects both, and they run roughly within that $15 to $20 range. If you're having a problem, if any one of our folks in the county have a problem and are unable to obtain an alarm, go to 311, go to mcfrs.org, MC-SAFE, reach out to us. We'll come out. We have resources to help them get a carbon monoxide alarm, as with their smoke alarms, because it's been over 40 years that this county had a smoke alarm requirement. They save lives. Carbon monoxide alarms are doing the exact same thing. So, Mr. President, Mr. Executive, and Councilmember Rice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
I could remind all of the council members to please to turn off your cameras during the proclamation so that people can actually see the proclamation. And thank you. Please, Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Chief Goldstein. Thank you, County Executive. County Executive, I think you have the proclamation in front of you as well.
I
So
do.
we can alternate? All right, we can alternate. I'll go ahead and start off. Whereas carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, poisonous gas, commonly known as the silent killer, that can be fatal for humans and animals and typically leaks from faulty, improperly used, or incorrectly vented fuel-burning appliances, such as furnaces, stoves, water heaters, fireplaces, or generators. And
Whereas more than 150 people die in the United States each year as a result of accidental carbon monoxide poisoning, many who mistake the initial symptoms for the flu, which includes headaches, dizziness, shortness of breath, fatigue, and nausea. And
whereas the County Council unanimously passed Bill 2318, requiring many existing single unit, 2-unit, and townhouse dwellings to install carbon monoxide alarms outside sleeping areas and on every level of the home, effective as of July 2019, thus expanding the scope of homes required to install this life-saving device. And
whereas this additional protection is a result of cross-agency collaboration and support from organizations such as the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service, Department of Permitting Services, Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, and housing associations who have committed unique resources to prevent the loss of life from carbon monoxide poisoning.
now, therefore, do we, Mark Elrich is our county executive, Sydney Katz is our county council president, and myself as county council member of Montgomery County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim November 2020 as Carbon Monoxide Poisoning Awareness Month in Montgomery County, Maryland. The County Council and the County Executive urge all residents to test their carbon monoxide alarms at least once a year and ensure that their gas appliances are working properly and vented correctly. Signed this 10th day of November in the year 2020 by County Executive Elrich, Council President Katz, and myself.